Types of clauses. Finite and non-finite clauses. We've been discussing and we have made them clear at certain time, but again we need to look at these two types of clauses. Finite clauses must contain a verb which shows tense. For example, present tense or past tense. They can be main clauses or subordinate clauses. Is it raining? So it's a finite clause. It has a finite verb. Is raining, right? The verb phrase has a finite sense. Non-finite clauses contain a verb which does not show tenses. We have seen example of this clause. We usually use non-finite verbs only in subordinate clauses because in main clauses there cannot be a non-finite verb. However, in subordinate clauses there can or there cannot be a finite verb or a non-finite verb as well. So let's look at this. How does this finite clause and non-finite clause comes into existence? This happens because of the verb. We know that verbs, sometimes we have four forms of the verb or sometimes five. Let's take four forms of the verb. Bare infinitive, the first form that is generally introduced as past tense, the second form, and infinitive, that is the base form, present participle, the ing form, and the third form, past participle form. So these are five forms. On the basis of these forms, we can determine whether a sentence or a clause has a finite verb or non-finite verb. Here we have used them in a very simple way to help you understand that how you can understand that a certain clause has a finite verb or non-finite verb. For example, she writes a letter. Here we have the verb writes, right? Write shows tense, that is present time. So it is a finite verb, right? And it's a finite clause as well as sentence. Similarly, she wrote a letter. Wrote is a past tense form and it shows past tense. So it is a finite clause, right? She to write a letter. It is to write is an infinitive, but you can see that this sentence is not grammatically correct. So you cannot directly use an infinitive as a main verb as you used writes and wrote. So it does not show tense. So it does not show, to write does not show tense. She writing a letter. Writing is a present participle form of the verb and it also does not show tense, right? So writing cannot show time. We use this word not even whenever we have to use this as a verb, we need a helping verb. She is writing a letter. So is will come, which is a time marker as we have seen. So only in that case is or was or any other time marker which will make it a finite verb, and thus the clause will become finite clause. And similarly, she written a letter. Written is a past participle, does not show time unless we use some time marker as she has, she had, she will have. So remember that these three forms of the verb are non-finite forms of the verb, and the first two are the finite forms of the verb. They are restricted with time. These three are not restricted with time. To use them as verb, you need helping verb. One thing. And second thing is that all of these three forms are used as other parts of speech, as noun, as adjective, especially the first two as noun, as adjective, as an adverb. Whereas the third one, written, is used as verb with the help of a helping verb or time marker, and as adjective, not as other parts of the speech, right? So it is used as adverb as well, but it is not used as noun. Whereas both first to write and writing can be used as noun, verb, adjective, and adverbs. In case of verb, they need some helping verb. In linguistic, grammatical mood is a grammatical feature of verbs used for signaling modality. So you need to understand this grammatical term mood. What do we mean by mood? It is the use of verbal inflections that allow speaker to express their attitude towards what they are saying, whether they are talking about a statement, whether they are talking about an interrogative question, whether they are talking about a command, a request, or they are talking about something which is unreal, right? Which is simply imaginary, or which may or may not take place, right? So these three. So we have three moods: indicative moods, imperative mood, and subjunctive mood. Sometimes we also call infinitive mood. A clause containing a verb in the indicative mood denotes a real or realist event or state occurring at a specific point in time. The principal reads the letter, right? So this is an indicative mood sentence because it denotes a real event. A subjunctive clause, by contrast, denotes a hypothetical or unreal event or state which has not yet occurred and which may never occur. For example, very common sentence: I wish he were alive. I wish I were the president of a country. So these are not a real event. These are imaginary event, right? So we have few clauses. She was glad that he apologized, in which apologized is finite by virtue of being inflicted for past tense. It has a ed form. And indicative in mood by virtue of having a nominative subject, which is he, right? Similarly, she demanded that he apologize. In this, the verb apologize is a finite by nature of being inflicted by subjunctive mood and perhaps present tense, and by virtue of having a nominative subject he. So these are two examples of finite verbs. I can't imagine him apologizing. Here, apologizing is a non-finite clause, a tenseless and moodless gerund, and has an accusative subject him. This type of verb always take a subject, right, which is in accusative case, never in the nominative case. It would be sensible for him to apologize. Again, non-finite clause, a timeless. There is no time for him to apologize. And moodless, infinitive form, and accusative subject him. Again, the subject is in accusative form, not in nominative form. And in the last sentence, it's important to know when to apologize. Again, here, when to apologize, it is a non-finite clause, a timeless and moodless infinitive form, and it has a silent subject. Who is to apologize is not clear in the sentence. So a finite clause determines the kind of subject it can have, either a nominative or an accusative. So a finite clause must take a nominative subject, either some noun, or you can know whether the subject is nominative by replacing it with the pronoun he or she. Finite clauses can have a nominative pronoun like he as their subject, but non-finite clauses cannot. Whether a particular clause is finite or not is to see whether it can have a nominative pronoun like he, she, it, etc. as subject. In addition to being finite or non-finite, each clause within a sentence has a specific force. So we have different types of sentences, like we say declarative, interrogative, imperative, exclamatory. So these have certain forces. So let's look at what they are. He went home. It's a declarative in force. It is used to make a statement. Are you feeling okay? It's interrogative in force. It is used to make a question. You be quiet. So it's an imperative sentence and is used to issue an order or command. What a great idea that is. So exclamative in force, used to explain surprise or delight, etc. So you must know that which force each type of structure of a sentence bears. Similarly, in complex sentence, each clause has its own force. It's not the same force in every clause. For example, he asked where she had gone. It has two finite clauses. He asked has declarative force, whereas the complement gone clause is interrogative. Where she had gone. Gone has an interrogative force, though it's an indirect question. Did you know that he has retired? The main clause has an interrogative force, whereas the complement clause, retired clause, is declarative. Tell her what a great time we had. The main clause is imperative in force, whereas the complement head of complement clause is exclamative. From the perspective of traditional grammar, the syntax of a language is described in terms of a taxonomy, different classification list of the range of different phrases, clauses, and sentence types found in the language. As we have seen that there are certain types of phrase, then there are certain functors. So there is a classification that we call it. This reflects that the fact that primary goal of traditional grammar is description rather than explanation. So this is what we differentiate between traditional grammar and descriptive grammar or syntax.